I'm Alli and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through 4 simple ways to create very beautiful artwork for your home. Now, these pieces of art are going to actually be featured in my dining room makeover. I'm going to go through all of the steps to make a beautiful piece of artwork, from prepping the canvases and paper to displaying it and all of that. That means there's a lot of work ahead of us, so let's get started. Now, before you get started on any painting, even if it is a pre-gessoed canvas, like most of the ones you can find at craft stores, you do want to paint the entire thing white. This will prime your canvas, give you a much smoother surface to work on, and much cleaner looking paint and a better looking outcome in the end. I'm going to mostly be working with acrylics and a touch of watercolor, so I'll walk you through all of those steps. This is just a good basic white to have. The bigger the tube, the better, because you do use a lot of white paint when you're making art. Once your white paint has dried, it's finally time to start working on the art. So I want to start with my biggest piece first. The first thing when working with a giant canvas is don't get intimidated by the size. I think when you work with something bigger, obviously it means you make your art bigger. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of tiny details. Of course it can be if that's what you want to do, but like I said, we're doing abstract. So I want this to be almost like a large graphic print, but with that beautiful hand-brushed look. Using a dry brush instead of a wet brush, I'm going to begin just kind of getting this oatmeal-y parchment color paint onto the canvas. For this painting, I want to try to cover as much as I can to the outer edge, but not quite going to the edge. I want to leave a thin white border along the canvas on all 4 sides. I just think that is a nice little touch. It adds a bit of some organicness, but also makes the painting just look a little bit more abstract, I guess. With my base color down, I want to start incorporating a little bit of my other 2 colors into the painting, but not much. I want it to be so subtle. So to do that, I'm going to make sure I saturate my brush and kind of start mixing the colors together and pulling them in and brushing them onto the canvas so lightly so that it's like they're barely even there. So as I said in the intro, I'm creating cohesive pieces of art that all work together. So when you're doing that, you of course want to pull the same colors into each piece, or at least pull one of those colors into each piece, in order to create this cohesive feel that everything just works together. So for me, I decided I want my base colors, my 2 standard colors between all my pieces, to be this parchment by Folk Art along with white. So once you pick out your bases, you can begin picking out your accent colors. I chose these colors because I'm working with neutrals. I really want this to be a warm, neutral palette with the addition of the blue, and even though it is blue, which is traditionally a cool color, it lends to be more of a warm toned blue, which is exactly what I wanted. So it looks really good if you pick all cool toned colors, all warm toned colors. They'll just really look good together. But of course, art rules are made to be broken. I'm not here to talk about color theory whatsoever. Now that the base of my painting is done, it is time to paint the design, and I'm going to do an abstract botanical kind of look. First thing I'm doing is lightly sketching on the shape that I'm going to paint. finishing touch, I'm standing up and I'm going to just paint kind of a line sort of abstractly down the canvas in blue. I'm going to show you how to prep some paper for acrylic paint. I'm actually pulling from a watercolor technique. I figure this will work equally as well for using acrylic. So what you want to first do is just really get the paper wet. So I'm dampening it with a sponge right here, making sure that it's pretty well saturated. Now once you have that, you're going to take some tape and put it around the edges. I'm using art tape because I have that. I'm assuming you could probably use painter's tape. And definitely make sure your piece of paper that you're prepping is quite a bit larger than what your art piece is going to be. I think I left about 1.5 inches on all 4 sides. Now this technique is called stretching the paper. That way when you're adding other wet media on top, the paper is already stretched out and less likely to wrinkle and warp. Once your stretched paper is all dry, it's time to start painting. So I took the backing of the frame that I'm going to put it in, I took it out of the frame, and I'm just going to trace it onto the paper. I'm not going to really care if it's perfectly straight on the paper since I'm just going to be cutting it out anyway. I mixed up some of the white and the folk art skyline blue to create a nice pale blue color. And now I'm going to paint the entire square that I drew with the blue and let that dry completely. With my blue dry, I'm going to take a thick bristle brush. This is just one from Dollar Tree from the hardware section. I chose this brush because it has a nice square shape and a lot of bristles, and I'm really wanting to go for that dry brushed look, and I think this brush should achieve that. Taking the paint from the top of the page and just slowly brushing it down with a very slight angle. It's just a very abstract, very brush strokey look, and I thought it would just be kind of unique and different. For this next painting, I'm going to tape off a border along all 4 of the sides. Once you have the tape on the canvas, the first thing you want to do is actually paint the little marked off area white. And you do this because it will prevent bleed through on all of your nice clean edges when you go and put the color over top. Once the white is completely dry, you can begin going in with your base color. I'm choosing to use this dried clay because I really like this terracotta look. I think it's just so pretty. While the canvas piece is drying, let's move on to this watercolor portion. Now, unlike the last acrylic piece where I taped off the paper to stretch it, I don't want to do it this time. I actually want to have the nice textural element after I put the watercolor on top. So I just have a scrap of paper here. This is actually Bristol paper. I don't have any watercolor paper. I just wanted to use what I have. First thing I want to do, because my paper obviously is not to size, is take it over to the canvas and mark where I'm going to cut it. And I'm just going to cut it pretty loosely to start. With my paper cut out, I actually am going to tear the edges to make them a bit more organic. With watercolors, you want 2 containers of water, one to clean your brush off in and one to wet your brush. So to start, I just want to cover this whole piece of paper with a little bit of the brown here, just to give the paper a little bit of some color. So to start, I'm going to wet the whole page first. Once the page is wet, you can start going in with your color, and really all you have to do is kind of dab it into spots and then just start kind of brushing it. And I want this to be very organic, so I'm trying to just kind of make it kind of flow as freely as possible. I'm just gonna let that dry. It's so subtle, you probably can't even see it on camera. Once your paper with the base is dry, it's time to paint the design. And I, since I'm doing sort of a botanical theme, want to kind of do like a watercolor sort of leafy looking shape. So I'm gonna try my hand at this. I'm gonna be using this golden color, and while I don't have gold really going throughout my art on any of these pieces, I think it kind of fits and brings in some of the natural wood tones that we'll find in my room. I'm doing a combination between a wet brush and a dry brush just to get different textures and different looks. It's definitely a really fun thing to play around with watercolor. And what I've learned from my experience, from learning how to do watercolor through some classes, is that it's just kind of all about just kind of having fun with it. And if it doesn't turn out, kind of finding ways to make what it is work. With both pieces dry, it is time to remove the tape and begin assembling the piece of art. To adhere my watercolor piece to the canvas, I'm going to use Mod Podge, and I'm just going to put a nice thick coat on the back. That way there's a lot for this to adhere onto. So that completes all 3 paintings for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a couple tips and new tricks and things that you can apply when doing your own paintings for your own home decor. I am really happy with how all 3 of these turned out. I think they're all very unique and have their own personality, yet all work really nice together as a small little collection, so I couldn't really ask for anything more. Of course, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is for my dining room makeover, which will be coming out so soon. I'm so excited to share it with you guys. And now if you enjoyed this video, want to see some more artsy themed videos in the future, hit that like button, and of course don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any time I post. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!